morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, May 6, 2026. I now call this regular meeting of the Wetaskiwin Regional Public School Board to order at 11:27. We'll begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we're on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting ground, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and Anishinaabe. We acknowledge all the many Indigenous nations, Métis and Inuit, whose footsteps have marked these lands for time immemorial. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. The next item on the agenda is consideration of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion that the agenda for the May 6, 2026 regular board meeting be approved as presented. Thank you, Trustee Johnson, seconder. Thank you, Trustee Grant. All in favor? Motion is carried. Next item is approval of the minutes from the April 22nd, 2026 regular board meeting. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections to the minutes? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion that the minutes of the April 22nd, 2026 regular board meeting be approved as presented? Thank you, Trustee Norton. Seconder. Thank you, Trustee Potts. All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to committee reports. We'll begin with Governance Committee, and I'll call on Trustee Johnson to present her report.
Okay, on the afternoon of April 22nd, the Governance Committee met. We reviewed Policy 7 and decided that no further action was required. A request was made for Assistant Secretary Treasurer Dewell to review the trustees' hourly submissions process to allow for a more detailed breakdown of hours. Inclement weather will undergo further review. Volunteer coaches and supervisors for extracurricular was also reviewed. The WRPS team will move forward with the use of TeamSnap as a communication for WRPS organized teams. It was decided that the referendum is not ideal due to calendar constraints, already scheduled PLC days throughout the year and a calendar that has already been released. So we will not be offering school facilities for the referendum vote. We had a discussion on Bill 25 and is to be brought back for further discussion. The committee requested that the board chair send a letter to ASBA seeking clarification on the implementation and the impact on school division boards. We discussed the, locally developed course, Psychology 35-3. And I recommend that the minutes of the Governance Committee meeting held on April 22nd be accepted as presented.
All right, thank you, Trustee Johnson. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Trustee Norton. Is there any discussion? Okay. The motion's on the floor that the minutes of the Governance Committee meeting held on April 22nd, 2026 be approved as presented. All in favor? Motion is carried. Right, and to board representative reports. ASBA Zone 4, Trustee Morton.
We got the presentation for the ASBA budget. And they really emphasized how they're trying to reach kind of long-term sustainability. And that for the preparation for the 2027 provincial election, that they're going to continue their focus on the role of trustees and strengthening government relations. There was big discussions on Bill 25. Of course, there's no details until it's passed, but they did say they're working on updating policies and APs that we will have access to and can play with them as we see fit. There was discussion on Bill 28 and how this is going to change what charter schools have access to, and does it change the board's oversights? And there was discussion on the money for the safety in schools and how it's going to be used and what areas people are focusing on. We learned that all of Zone 4 has different report card reporting words, which I find very interesting. Similar but not the same. And then there was some excitement over the general meeting with the fireside chat with Stephen Herbert.
Thank you. Moving on to Public School Board Association of Alberta, Trustee Johnson.
Yep, I believe I gave the highlights of the PSBC meeting, last board meeting for everybody's information, and I assume everybody gets a copy of the advocate from the association directly, and just a message to scan through it and take from it what you will. And that's about all.
Okay, thanks. And I think I skipped one. So the 2026 FNMI Education Gathering Conference highlights, Trustee Potts.
Thank you. I attended the FNMI conference at the River Cree, April 22nd to the 24th. It was a really big conference. There was trustees and staff from all over the province that attended. So some of the goals for the gathering was to increase in understanding how to apply foundational knowledge about First Nations, Métis and Inuit for the benefit of all students, to increase capacity building to meet the learning needs of First Nations, Métis and Inuit, increase in understanding how to engage and collaborate with First Nations, Métis and Inuit leaders, elders, communities and organizations, increase awareness and understanding of how to implement and lead practices that support reconciliation within our schools, school systems and communities. Some of the conference highlights that I really thought would benefit in the district would be learning from what other school districts are doing in relation to the TRC and Indigenous learning. I got to sit in on a presentation on one of the school boards from down south, and it's collaboration with Calgary School Board, Sutina, and the surrounding schools. So I thought it would be really great for Wetaskiwin to engage Ponoka, Musquecheese, and maybe Black Gold, because all of our Musquecheese students attend all of those schools. So it'd be good to maybe build a team and learning from each other, and to have some sort of focus group. So inviting guests who have teachings about who we are and the history brought into the schools. I know we had Willie come in and do a presentation, but maybe just having more leaders or elders come in and to talk with the students. The Indigenous Advisory Circle maybe is an idea. And then measurements on how our children are feeling supported. And maybe we did have a group from the ATEP program coming in, and they were talking about some of the barriers and some of the things that they were facing as as Indigenous teachers, I guess, in the systems. And then some of the impacts on First Nation students, and then moving forward together was really emphasize that reconciliation is not a single event, but more it's a living process. And then I also attended a session on youth leadership through sport, which was a group that went into remote communities and brought sports into that. And I thought that was a really great program. It's not so much isolation here, but some of the communities, like my community, even though we're located close to Ponoka and Wetaskiwin, a lot of our students are falling through the cracks because they don't have that support, I guess, because they just live in that little 10 by 10 reserve. So I thought that was really interesting. And then I just attached the agenda on some of the stuff that the keynotes, Dr. Leroy Littlebear was the keynote at the banquet dinner, which was really great. So really great sessions, and thank you for the opportunity in attending.
Sounds like a great conference.
It was.
I believe, yeah, go ahead.
So what is ATEP?
The Aboriginal Teachers Education Program that runs through the University of Alberta.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't understand the
Oh,
acronym,
yeah. Oh, okay.
so
Thank you very much.
it's not one I'm familiar with, Clayton, so thank you.
Moving on to Trustee Lethbridge, do you have a update?
Yes, I do. So currently I'm part of the Rural Caucus Working Committee that is looking to change and improve how and what the rural small school grant covers, or how it is delivered to our rural schools. We've had a couple of meetings, one with all of the member school boards and one meeting with all the members of the working committee, which there are 5 of us from all over Alberta. We have discussed a broad range of topics, including what is hurting rural schools. Home education is a huge topic at these meetings, as well as the funding formula for the grant. What could be added change from the current formula to make it better for our students in our schools? The grant currently doesn't address students who are in schools that travel long travel times, mostly over an hour to school. It doesn't cover inefficiencies or schools that lose funding because of having, example, 34 students versus 35 students. Another concern is charter schools and how they are funded. A lot of concerns swirling around Bill 25 that are also important to this group. Right now we are creating a survey for our member boards to gain information about what is hurting our small rural schools. We are also looking at advocacy points to educate our MLAs, county and city councilors. And our next meeting is today at 3.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to board chair report. Today I just wanted to discuss 2 pieces of correspondence that tie into staffing and student supports. First, we received a letter from Pembina Hill School Division addressed to Minister Nicolaides regarding classroom complexity funding. They begin by recognizing the province's recent investment and then raise a concern that the way the funding is being allocated can unintentionally leave rural divisions behind. Their point is that rural complexity can look different than in urban centers, but it's no less real, and the service gaps are often larger. They are asking for a review of the allocation model so it reflects access to services realities, not just enrollment, and they are inviting the ministry to engage rural divisions as the model evolves. The second piece of correspondence we received was a letter from PSBAA to the Minister of Advanced Education regarding alternative and expedited teaching certificate pathways. It's a positive message thanking the Minister for meeting with PSBAA and for supporting work that could expand pathways into the profession while maintaining quality standards. It also connects this work to the very real recruitment and retention challenges that rural and northern divisions face and encourage continued collaboration to strengthen the K-12 workforce. Also, I'd like to discuss, so we recently had a parent-student forum where there was some really good discussions. And I'd like to open it up to the rest of the trustees for any reflections or takeaways you heard from the session. Trustee Martin?
Okay, this was heartwarming because we got to talk to a lot of students and there was lots of time for personal conversation as well as answering questions. And every table that I sat at, those kids loved their school for all different reasons, and it wasn't always what you thought it should be. I'd say the majority of the kids that I talked to are there and they love their math class and their social studies class. Science was a hard hit on most of them, which I take personally, but it was awesome. Good conversation.
Thank you very much. Trustee Johnson?
I was impressed by the number of county councillors who came to participate. And I think that from the students that we talked to, I was impressed that technology wasn't part of the discussion. It was more about friendship and relationship and discussing social issues in their school rather than, the conversations were very lively and the kids participated fully. And it was really cool to hear them, the way they talked about their schools, as Anna says, and the way they talk about their teachers and who's engaging and who takes the time to get to know them. It was really cool. I'm really glad we did it.
Trustee Hiker?
I really enjoyed speaking to my groups too. I did find it somewhat surprising to someone who very much loves structure to hear how much the students value structure as well in their classrooms. I thought that just as a mom, valuing that was just sort of like the mom's role of it. But to hear kids say how much they value a controlled and structured learning environment, I thought was pretty amazing. I was a little bit shocked to hear of the ongoing data, Wi-Fi, cell reception hurdles, limitations that they still really face out west, and in an ever digital learning environment, that's really inequality. And that really how can we present all these things when they can't even access it reliably? So that was a red flag for me. And I had to say, the Buck Mountain students, if I had to pick favorites, which I never would pick favorites, but I would pick them to be favorites. They were just so very well spoken and mature, and they really understood the questions that were being asked and had fantastic answers for them. So yeah, that was my takeaway.
Trustee Wright?
I thoroughly enjoyed the event and engaging the students. I started off at the table with the comp students. It was, for me, surprising to hear at how much of that group of student leaders is self-motivated, and that they feel a lot of their classmates share the same kind of sentiment, where they're going into their Google classrooms the night before and preparing for the next day's lessons so they're not surprised when they come in. I wouldn't have done that as a student, to be honest, so it was nice to kind of hear that. All of the students were very well prepared to be there, so you can tell that teachers, principals had spent some quality time with these students before they got there because they were very engaged to share their information. Same thing, relationships was a big piece, feeling a part of the community. And then the fall in school, all three students vehemently spoke out about accountability of their classmates. whether that's them holding their classmates accountable, their classmates holding them accountable, and staff doing the same thing. And so that was a really nice part to hear of building those communities within those classrooms. Trustee Joyce.
Can I go to trustee Box?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it also, listening to the students. It was great to see such a great bunch of students, and I have to agree, Buck Mountain, their students were amazing. They really were appreciative that we were listening to them, and they said that they felt more involved, I guess, in hearing their feedback. And the one student was talking about the careers, and he did an accounting program, and he was quite proud that he finished it. So I asked him if he was going to be accountant, and he said no. So it was great. It was really fun to listen to them and hear all of their feedback. It was a really good day.
Yes, trustee Lethbridge?
So one takeaway I had from there is that the kids love to be together. And I had some kids from Lakedale and some kids from Winfield. Oh, hey, my friend is here, and why can't we do more things together? And so they would really like to spend more time like building community together. And another fun thing that I really thought was really great for me was that the kids were surprised that trustees are real people. And so you get to know, like, what did you do? What do you do? How did you become a trustee? Those kinds of questions. But just the fact that all these students want to be together was really something for me.
I was just curious, Anna and Andrew both had kids there. I just wondered how your kids felt about it.
Yeah, I can speak to it. We were actually, I wasn't actually supposed to be there that day to start with. We had vacation plans. My daughter was asked to represent Queenie School, so we pivoted so that she could attend. She was very excited. I looked over her table a few times. She was very engaged in conversation. We talked a little bit about home before. She sees herself as a student leader in her classroom and in her school. And she thoroughly enjoyed being there with her peer group, sharing those ideas. And I think there was some assurance on her end, because on the drive home she talked about it, was that it sounds like, Dad, that the trustees and the schools want to know what I think, which is huge.
That's what we want.
Willa's biggest comment was the food was amazing. Her one thing is that, how did she word it? She wanted to have what she did wrong, she wanted to have questions ready. Because when she was there, it was hard for her to ask the adults at the table questions. So she came home with questions in her head, and she's like, oh, I needed to have those written down. Which was maybe I didn't prepare her enough, but also as a discussion that they could have had at school. Yeah, that was her one negative.
Okay, thank you. I just was curious if the students enjoyed it as much as we did. They did like the food.
Yeah.
Yeah, the food was amazing.
Good stuff, thank you. Moving on, we'll move to superintendent's report. So Superintendent Wade, you can take her away.
Awesome, thank you. Good news item. First and foremost, today we have a Minute to Win It, or In It to Win It event at the Comp for grade 8 students. So just a big event tonight going on between 6:30 and 8 p.m. And another good news item, we've already talked about the student forum, but just a reminder to the students, we have a high school group of students at 4 of our high schools that sort of meet and greet with the superintendent, and I have conversations with them. I've had a couple with them, and that they'll be joining you as trustees next Wednesday at the Pigeon Lake Village to review the student forum feedback as well as the student survey feedback. So looking forward to another conversation where, once again, student voice is front and center and helping guide and give suggestions to trustees as you move forward on improving of an education plan, as well as your board priorities. So just, it's gonna be another great day. So, and just a big thank you to you as trustees and to the county councilors, city councilors, community representatives, the bus drivers that stayed to have a conversation, just everyone to engage in such a great day. It was great to see, and also a big thanks to the parents that came out too as well. And I know some of the conversations at the parent tables too, we've captured that, and we'll give feedback to that, and we'll give the feedback to the principals that they can go back to their school councils and sort of share of what the students said, but also what the parents said. And so I just think the more that we can do and the more that our communities can do to come together to bring all generations together to help us make better decisions and to move us in the right direction is always a good thing to consider. So I have a few items for information, Chair Dorchester. First item for information is full day kindergarten consideration. As mentioned in the previous board meetings in the late winter, that we did engage our families in kindergarten survey to see who would be interested in everyday all day kindergarten. We had over 135 responses across the jurisdiction. The initial motion of consideration was to see if there was enough interest in the area of Millet and or in the city of Wetaskiwin, in particular the Clear Vista area, which are two of our bigger catchment areas. At the end of the day, our families did get back to us, not only families for next year, but families for future years. And at this time, we didn't get to that threshold of where 20 families were saying, nope, we're definitely committed. And just a reminder that when we did put out that survey is that you do see some jurisdictions that do offer full day kindergarten with a fee. You as a board said, you know what, we would look at doing this with an idea that with no fee. But at the end of the day, we had that conversation. I think it's another conversation we can have in future years when you're out and talking to parents and at school councils, just making sure people are aware that when surveys come out from a school division, as the kids even said, hey, as Trustee Wright just mentioned, we're listening. And we want to be responsive. So just that's for information there. Also, just for information is that we did have a request regarding use of sites and asking our schools to shutter, as Trustee Johnson talked about in governance, and it was a great conversation to have. And as Trustee Johnson also mentioned in governance around the letter, but this is correspondence that we've sent back to government.
I'm sorry, I apologize for saying we refused it, because I read your letter that we will have further discussions.
Yeah. But right now from our end is like just with but you are right, Trustee Johnson, with the idea that we've done a lot of work with our calendar. We approved a calendar, we came back to review calendar and to pivot on such short notice, to be honest with you, knowing that we already have PLC days lined up on the week prior to. At this time, I know we have lots of facilities in our community that are from the county and city that could easily provide opportunities for the referendum to occur and votes to happen. Also attached is the PUF audit, 100%. So every year, you know, we have our PUF audit that where government will come in and just double check to make sure are the students attending, IPPs, you name it, and just for information that our audit was once again 100% satisfactory, which was fantastic. And big thank you to our student services, to our principals, to our teachers that all make sure that what we say we're doing, we're doing. Also for information, we have our external learning opportunities, which you've already spoken to, Trustee Dorchester. It's more of that high school focus, that extra credits opportunity. Operations and maintenance, just to let you know. So good news item, but also just letting the board know here in regards to this is that we're moving forward with Mark Johnson, moving on and maintaining his manager facility and finance. You know, for the last couple of months, we've downsized the department, but he's done a great job in engaging that and finding efficiencies. So congratulations to Mark to continue his work. And, you know, once again, even when you don't see it, you know, it's still happening. And the work of his department, even on the day of the student forum, was very front and center, but you actually wouldn't see them there because they did a bunch of work outside the hours, but quietly made that day possible. So no different than the transportation department that did all that work. So there's so many different moving parts that make things happen. Sometimes you just don't see it. So congratulations to Mark on that piece as well. Also for information is the Fine Arts newsletter and the Indigenous Education newsletter attached for trustees to review. And finally, the Buck Mountain Principalship, and just to let the trustees know that we will be appointing Patrick Granger as principal of Buck Mountain, effective for the next school year. On to items for action, and I have a few. First and foremost, as my computer is on the go here. So at the last board meeting, we actually had a course referred to governance for further conversation, and Trustee Johnson had provided that opportunity on the agenda to have a conversation. So, and I think after a conversation and discussion in the course. I think we are looking for that. The following course that was previously approved by the board, WRPS uses course regarding the LDC 3155 psychology abnormal for 3 credits. I'm looking for a motion that this locally developed course, LDC 3155 psychology abnormal 35, be reacquired for use in our division.
I'd make that motion.
Okay, thank you, seconder. Trustee Johnson. Any discussion? The motion on the floor is that the locally developed course LDC 3155 psychology abnormal 35 be required for use in our division. All in favor? Motion's carried.
Thank you. Next item for action is low incident support and services list funding update for the 25-26 school year. Roughly about this time every year, we get additional dollars that if we do have students that come to us with additional needs, for example, hard of hearing, deaf or hard of hearing, visual impairment and so forth, there is access to dollars to ask for additional dollars beyond the funding profile. Looking for a motion that the low incident support and services funding update for the 25-26 school year be referred to the Facilities and Finance Committee for further discussion.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Wright, because you're making the motion.
Yeah, I recommend the motion.
Okay, seconder. Thank you, Trustee Lethbridge. Any discussion? The motion on the floor is that the low incident supports and services LISS funding update for the 2025-26 school year be referred to Facility and Finance Committee for further discussion. All in favor?
Thank you. Next up, we had correspondence from the department prior to spring break regarding OH&S inspections, and part of this was coming out of an action from the incident at Tumbler Ridge, where that the provincial government wanted to check into schools to see how your protocols regards the lockdown, hold and secures, et cetera, and do you do your drills? Not only the drills around hold and secure and lockdown, but how do you do tornado drills, fire drills, and so forth. The other part about the inspection, when you read through the correspondence, was actually, it was not just an inspection around those areas around community school and school safety, but also just around how do you have chemical storage and your lifts and hoists and so forth. So when I say hoists, you have maybe an automotive where there's a lift for cars, but also when I say lifts, also that, when you're transporting students with accessibility, are those inspected and so forth. So attached here are the 3 inspections. And so I'm looking for a motion that the Alberta Ed OH&S inspection report be referred to Facility and Finance Committees for further discussion.
Motion.
Seconder. Thank you, Trustee Potts. Discussion.
I just have a question. Did we pick those schools or they picked them?
No, so they picked those schools, and so we did have great correspondence with Alberta Ed because we were curious in a small school division how we had 3 schools selected, and so they've taken that for feedback. For our end, and kudos to our principals and our schools and our maintenance department and all those involved, we were very responsive. We had it until the end of June, but our principal said, if we could to do this, so we just finished our last inspection in the last week in April, but they choose the schools. And so forth. So, but yeah, we were curious how 3 schools, because we did hear some jurisdictional conversation that maybe they didn't have 3 schools, but they were significantly larger. But once again, at the end of the day, I think it's fantastic. Anytime we get to review our APs, we know we just went through an audit in the fall around safety, and we did very well there. So having a second audit just gives reaffirmation that we're doing the right thing. But also the idea, like anything, is there areas for improvement? We're always opportunity to review that is really good. But good job. Real appreciative of our principal time and our safety committees, because in some of those situations, these 3 audits would probably take up close to 2 days. Yeah.
Any further discussion? The motion on the floor is that the Alberta Ed OHS inspection report be referred to the Facility and Finance Committee for further discussion. All in favor? Motion's carried.
Next item is just the news release regarding more modulars and more space for students. So this is something provincial-wide that comes out to every school jurisdiction. I know recently we just approved our 3-year capital plan, which did not involve a request for modulars, but at the end of the day, every school division gets this information. So I am looking for this news release regarding more modulars, more space for students, be referred to Facility and Finance Committee for further discussion.
Trustee Hiker.
Yeah, I'd make that motion.
Thank you, seconder. Thank you, trustee Reich. Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is that the news release, more modulars, more space for students be referred to the Facility and Finance Committee for further discussion. All in favor? Motion is carried.
Here we go. How can you tell it's the theme of budget right now? Next up is that we were given correspondence from Alberta Education regarding a one-time funding for school safety. This is something over the last couple of years, obviously, we've updated some of our video camera systems and so forth. So I feel this is a bit of a potential good news item for WRPS, is that we would be looking at trying to engage in government, saying that there's some things that we've taken in, for example, around video cameras, could we recover those costs, even though it's not in this current budget year or next budget year. So I'm looking for this correspondence, the one-time funding commitment, school safety be referred to Facility and Finance Committee for further discussion.
Trustee Johnson, are you prepared to make the motion?
Thank you.
Seconder. Thank you, trustee Lethbridge. Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is that the one-time funding commitment, school safety be referred to Facility and Finance Committee for further discussion. All in favor? Motion's carried.
Next item is a presentation, and so as we get prepared to have an upcoming COSC event with all of our councils, the school councils, this is a presentation that we did last year. We actually did a couple of presentations on request by the parent representatives of the school council. One was around just governance and agendas, and the other one is around school council with regards to school generated funds and fundraising societies. And so that being said, I think as we're bringing a year to an end, and next year, we're already thinking about next year with potential new school council elections, I think this would be very appropriate to have this presentation referred to finance and facilities, so we have a really good understanding on how we can support our school councils, because they are volunteers, as are the fundraising societies, but at the same time, we need to understand and be aware, as does our community, that these volunteers do take on a financial responsibility, and there's a lot of responsibility, and they take it seriously, and how we can best support them. So I'm looking for that the school generated funds, school council and fundraising society presentation be referred to Facility and Finance Committee for further discussion.
Trustee Johnson, prepared to make the motion?
Yes.
Seconder?
Trustee.
Thank you, trustee Eckford. Any discussion? Trustee Johnson?
Yes, if I can speak to this motion, I think this is a very, very important topic for our school councils to be aware of, and our trustees to be aware of when they should and shouldn't be in a meeting, because we have to be at arm's length when it comes to school generated funds, so.
Trustee Eckford.
Just anything we can do to help support our volunteers, who are absolutely one of the most valuable things that our schools have to rely on. Really, they will help fund things, they will help volunteer to assist with things, and they're becoming few and far between. So anything we can do to make it easier and help with them to, if they need help to organize or if they need help to get information, I'm all for helping volunteers to fulfill their roles, because it is a thankless job and we're just lucky to have the ones that we do.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, the motion on the floor is that the school generated funds, school councils and fundraising society presentation be referred to the Facility and Finance Committee for further discussion. All in favor? Motion is carried.
Last item for action, as you were aware, over the last month or so, the funding profiles have been pushed out to school divisions, but they're under constant revision and updates. We're anticipating what we hope to be is one of the final updates of our funding profile this week. We are eagerly anticipating. That being said, I think if we do receive that funding profile, we will be prepared to start taking forward a draft budget for consideration to use as the board. And then with the idea that we could make a public presentation at the next board meeting. So I'm looking at the draft budget for the 26-27 school year, 2026-27 school year, be referred to Facility and Finance Committee for review for the public presentation.
Trustee Rick, making the motion, seconder. Thank you, trustee Morton. Any discussion? Okay, motion on the floor is the draft budget 2026-2027 school year be referred to the Facility and Finance Committee for review of the public presentation. All in favor? Motion's carried.
Attached are board actions and referrals, and that is it for my report.
Thank you very much. Moving on,
Chair
board,
Dorchester?
yeah,
Just a comment, trustee Lethbridge and I attended the Music Monday at Calvary Baptist Church on Monday. What a great performance by the kids and very well run. For as many kids as were there, the on and off the stage was pretty well managed by the staff. And I think the kids had a really good time seeing what each, how different the programs were in the schools. And the community choir in Wetaskiwin opened the Monday music. And personally, I didn't know that Music Monday was a thing across Canada.
It is, yeah.
And so we participated as a group we actually sang the songs with the choir. So it was a really good afternoon. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would like to thank our arts teacher or our music teachers for preparing their kids to participate in that event.
so next item on the agenda is board correspondence. We discussed that in my report. Upcoming events, board recognition night, Thursday, May 7th at 4:30. Fine Arts Fusion Grade 6, Tuesday, May 12th at 10 a.m. at the 4-H Center at Battle Lake. Education Committee, Wednesday, May 13th at 9 a.m. Okay, moving on to adjournment is, if there's no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn? Trustee Johnson, seconder, trustee Heikert, all in favor? All right, the meeting is adjourned at 12:09. Thank you, everyone.